Hello and welcome to an online course on Python programming. I once again welcome you all. In this video, we will cover functions and its types in Python, how to define and call a function, functions returning values, functions with arguments or parameters, and then scope and lifetime of variables. Now in Python, a function is a group of related statements that performs a specific task. Now the functions basically help to break our program into smaller and in the modular chunks. As our program grows larger and larger, the functions make it more organized and manageable. Now, there are basically two types of functions. The first is built-in type functions, which is already available. And then second type of functions are user-defined. For as per the need of user or a programmer, these functions are defined. So you have already we have already seen the various functions, that is built-in functions, the print function, then return function, then absolute function, that is ABS, then format function, then int function and float function. These are all the built-in functions. Now, as per the need of the user, you can define multiple functions. That is, you may define sum function, you may define maximum function, or you may define largest function. So in built-in type, there is already existing function, that is a max function, to calculate the maximum value out of a list. So it is already there in the list in the built-in functions. So these are basically two types of functions. A function definition and call. If you see the sequence, then first we have to define this function with a name, then you have to call it, and then it will display some output or do some particular task. So what is the syntax of this? How to define a function? So it is proceeded with the def keyword. Okay, it is a keyword def, then followed by a function name. You can give any function name other than your keywords. Okay, so you cannot give a function name with def. So this keyword is already available. Then function may have some parameters or arguments, or function may not have any argument. And then you have to again give a tab key. So this is the body of your function. Okay, and this function may return some value or it may not. It is optional. But again, return is the built-in function. You have to return a value over here if you want. Okay. Now always remember that function can only return only one value. Two values cannot be returned by a function. This is very, very important. So usually the sum or total or average is returned by the function. Now how to call a function? Now function can be called like you have to give function name first, followed by how many parameters are there. Now always remember that if you pass two arguments or parameters from the call function, then you must specify two arguments over here. For example, if you pass two parameters, that is say 3 and 5, by calling a function add, okay, then while defining the add function, you have to keep in mind that the add function must have two values over here, that is x comma y. Okay, it may be of any type. It may be of float, it may be of string type. Okay, so the number of arguments should be same so that it will call the same defined add function. So this is the basics about function definition and its calling. And let us see an example. Okay, so in the first case, you have defined add function with two parameters or argument and then with a colon. So this is the syntax to define a function. Then you have taken one variable that is total equal to x plus y. So you are doing the total of two variables over here. Then you are printing addition is equal to total. Okay, so this is the function body. This is the function body. Then you are calling this function with four different types of arguments. So in the first case, you are passing two integer values, and hence you will get the addition is equal to 5, that is 2 plus 3 is equal to 5. In the first case, you are passing both integer value. In the second case, you are passing one float and other int. So you are getting addition of 12.6. Okay. Now in the third case, you are passing both string values. Okay. So you are passing hello in X and you are passing world in Y. So ultimately, basically it is concatenating the strings. So you are getting the output that is hello world. And in the fourth case, you are passing two float values. So you are getting 8.3. Okay, addition of these two float values. But if you pass one string and other integer, it will give you an error because this hello cannot be added to integer 2 or integer any other integer. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that the string cannot be added to an integer or float value. In second type, so we have return, we have used the inbuilt function that is return. So define add xy same, total xy etc is same. Instead of printing the addition over here, what I am doing, I am simply returning the value of total to the calling function. So in the print statement, what I am doing, addition is equal to, and here only I am calling the function. So the value returned by this add function will be printed over here or will be transferred from this to this point. Okay, so you are getting the output like addition is equal to 5, addition is equal to 12.6, addition is equal to hello world, and addition is equal to 8.3. Okay, so you can use any way of printing the values. You can use the returning way, or you can use or directly print over here. Okay, so this is regarding return, use of return function. Now one point is very important over here, that you have defined a function add. Okay, then you have summed it, that is xy total. You are returning the total, and you have added one more print statement below the return of total. Okay, so you have to keep in mind that this whatever you write below to return function, it will never be executed. Okay, because after return it will end your define function. Means the flow of the program will move from return to here. Okay, so this whatever you write below return, it will not be printed. You can see in the output that it is only printing up to 8.3. It has not printed function end in any of the cases. So that is to be remembered. Do not write anything below the print statement. Now the functions can have default arguments. So what are default arguments basically? In the previous example, we have seen that we have passed the value of x and y from the calling function. In some cases, you may set some default value to the variables. That is, for example, if there is a constant of 10, suppose. So I have set c is equal to 10 by default. Okay. So in definition, you can see that there are two number of arguments in the definition of add function. But while calling the add function, we are only transferring one value. Okay. Means what is the meaning of this? This 2 will be passed to x. Means in this case, x will be equal to 2. And c is by default, you have given the value of 10. Means it is returning the output 2 plus 10, which is equal to 12. So this is called as a default argument. You can have any value of default argument. Now suppose in any case you want to change the value of default argument. So can we do it? Yes, of course you can do it. So how to do? You simply pass the value, that is add 2, 12. Okay. So now what will happen? This 12 value will be assigned to C. And then it will display the output, that is 2 plus 12, that is equals to 14. So you can change the value which is assigned by you to this variable. Okay, so default values can be changed. Similarly, this is the example of integer type variables. We will have an example of string type variables. So what is been done over here? That is a welcome function is defined. Okay. The name is one argument and second argument is default argument. That is s is equal to welcome. That is the default string. Then s concatenate variable is there, concatenate is equal to name plus s. And I am returning this variable. This is function definition. Okay. Now I am calling the function, that is welcome, and I am passing only one parameter, that is hello. So this hello will be assigned to name variable. Okay. And it will print hello welcome. So welcome is the default argument and you have passed the value of hello to name. So it is basically printing hello welcome. Okay. In the second case, I'm now changing the value of default argument. So in the first case, I am passing hello. So this hello will be assigned to name. Okay. And this Rohit will be assigned to S. Means welcome will be replaced by Rohit. And hence you are getting the output like hello Rohit. Okay. Now suppose in the case, now in the third picture, I have used default argument first, that is s equal to welcome, comma name. Okay. And then remaining code is same. So whenever you do such types of default argument at the first, it will definitely give you error. That is non-default arguments follows default arguments. Okay. So first you have to give your normal passing argument and then you have to give default arguments. Okay. Now the next is the function overloading concept of object-oriented programming. Now just to demonstrate this concept, I have developed two functions with the same name. Function overloading means two functions with one name. The name will be same in the both functions. So I have defined add a function with two arguments over here, and in the second I have defined add a function with the three arguments over here. Now, since the number of arguments are different, the two functions will be different. If you pass 3 arguments in calling, okay, so if it will call the function corresponding with 3 arguments, and if you pass 2 arguments, then the function will call the function corresponding to 3 arguments. But in both the cases, we have passed 3 arguments. Okay, so this both the statements corresponds to this, the function with 3 arguments. So in the first case, we have passed 2, 3, 8. So it is showing you addition 13. Okay. In the second case, we have passed hello as a string, good morning as a string, and how are you as a string. Then it is displaying hello, good morning, how are you. Okay. So this is function overloading concept. Now you will not be requiring definition of multiple functions depending on the number of parameters or arguments. Okay. So there is one more utility of Python is that you can define functions with arbitrary arguments. So what is the meaning of arbitrary arguments? That you simply write star names whenever you are not sure about how many people will arrive at a function. You can simply write star names, and then you have to use a for loop. So for I in names, okay, you will be printing hello of I. Now this is, you are calling the welcome function. I am passing 2 arguments, that is Ram and Rohit. So what is its output? Hello Ram and hello Rohit. Okay. Now what is happening in the program? Whenever you are calling this welcome function, these 2 arguments will get converted into a tuple. Okay. So these 2 arguments will get converted into a tuple. We have already seen, like, suppose a Ram and Rohit. Okay, so this will get converted into a tuple. Then you can pass multiple arguments, Ram, Rohit, and some other names up to 10 or up to 20. Okay, so number of argument is not a problem. So it will convert into a tuple, and then as you search in a tuple using a for loop, you can search, that is for I in names. Okay, so what is the first value of index 0 is Ram. What is the value of a tuple with index 1 is Rohit. So what it is displaying, print hello I first means Ram. Then second case again for loop hello Rohit. So in this way you can use functions with arbitrary arguments when the number of arguments to be passed isn't of varying nature, or you are not sure about number of arguments to be passed. Now the next is recursive function. In Python, we know that function can call other functions. It is even possible for the function to call itself. So such types of arrangement is called as recursive functions. Okay. Now recursive functions ends when the number reduces to 1. This is called the base condition. So you must specify a base condition for the recursive functions. Every recursive function must have a base condition that stops the recursion, or else the function calls itself infinitely. Okay, so your function will keeps on running. So Python interpreter limits the depth of recursion to help avoid infinite recursions resulting into stack overflows. In C language, we have most of you have seen. Okay, so you have to use control break to break the program when it goes into indefinite loop. Okay, in Python, so there is a limit, that is the maximum depth of recursion is 1000. So if the limit is crossed, it results in recursion error. Means interpreter will automatically terminate your program when the number reduces to 1000. Let us understand this text using a program. So I have defined a function that is a factorial. Okay, factorial of x. It is taking only one argument. It is only a comments. So this is a recursive function to find the factorial of an integer. These are called as multi-line comments. You have already seen multi-line comments. So inside this factorial function, we have used if condition statement, that is if x compares with 1, return 1. So this is basically the base condition. It is called as base condition. If x compares with 1, we have to return 1. Else return x into factorial of x minus 1. Suppose you pass a number 5. So factorial of 5 will be 5 into 4 into 3 into 2 into 1, which is nothing but 120. Okay. So how this program basically works? So in the print function, we have taken number equal to 5. In print function, the factorial of 5 is. Now here we have called the factorial function. So this num will be set to 5 and it is passed to x, means here x will be equal to 5. Okay. So first it will check the condition. If x is compares with 1, then it will return 1 and the program will stop. Now since the value of x is not 1, it will go in the else statement. Okay, and it will return the value of x into, it will call the factorial function, the same function it will be calling, x into x minus 1, means 5 into 5 minus 1. That is 5 into 5 minus 1, that is 4. It will again call the same factorial function. Now the value of x becomes 4. Okay. Again it will check whether x compares with 1. It is not, and hence it will go in the else loop, and then it will be done like 5 into 4 into 3. Again the same will continue, 2 into 1. Now at last the value of x becomes 1. And when x equals to 1, x changes to 1, it will go into this loop. That not loop, if this statement. So it will return 1 and then this recursive functions will stop. And ultimately it will return the total sum, that is 120. And you can see in the result that factorial of 5 is 120. So in this way recursive function works. Now what we have done, just to demonstrate how maximum recursion depth exceeded can be seen, I have removed the part of the what we call it as this part, that is baseline conditions. I have removed this part and I have tried, and this as well, and I have run the program. Okay, so what error it is giving me, that maximum recursion depth exceeded, and hence then program will stop, and it is not displaying you any factorial. Okay, so this is, you have to keep in mind that you have to give baseline condition. Now, very important that scope and lifetime of variables. Just to demonstrate, so basically there are two types of variables. One is called as local variable, other is global variable. So to demonstrate this, let us see the program. I have defined x is equals to 0. Okay. Now I have defined a function that is set x, and here I am setting the value of x equal to 10, and I am printing x inside set x function and the value of x. Okay. And then I'm changing the value of x equal to 20, and then I'm calling set x function. Okay, so here set x function is called. So if you print the value of x inside set x function and outside set x function, what you will get? X outside set x function will be 0. Okay, and x inside set x function is 10. Okay, so means this x is different than this. So the x defined inside the set x function is local to that function only. Okay, and x which is defined outside any functions, it is called as global x. Okay, and that's why these x can hold two different values, x equal to 0 and x is equal to 10. So inside this set x function, the value of x is 10. Here the value of x is 20. It is inside the set x function. But if you print the value of x outside this set x function, it will always print the value of 0. Okay, so this is the basic difference between local variables and global variables. Now there are certain rules to define the global variables. We will see in the next slide, but before that let us have one more look on the same example. Okay, so here again the same function I have written. This part is the same to previous. Okay, now what I have done, suppose you want to keep only one value of x inside the set x function as well as outside of set x function. So what I have done, again the same program, x equals to 0, define set x function. Now you just have to declare it as global inside your set x function. So by doing this, by using a global keyword, what you are telling interpreter that this x is a global and it is same as x equals to 0 outside the set x function. So you will notice that in the output, inside set x it is 10 and outside set x also it is 10. Means this x is equal to 0 values replaced with this statement. Okay, so this is the use of global variables. In such way you can have the global variables. Now there are certain rules for this global variable. Now when we create a variable inside a function, it is local by default. We have seen this in the example. Okay, when we define a variable outside of the function, it is global by default. We have also seen this. This is I equals to 0 case. This is I equals to 10 case. Okay, we use global keyword to read and write global variables inside the function. We have just written that is global x. Now we have declared x as global. Okay, and use of global keyword outside the function has no effect because it is by default global. So these are the rules you have to keep in mind while you are using the two different global and local variables. So for this video, we will stop here. So I hope you are liking my videos. Keep watching my videos and please ask the queries if you are having. Okay. And have a good day. Happy learning.